Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this webinar. So my name is Anna, and I am an education specialist at CAT. And I have been at CAT for nearly 2 years now, providing education sessions such as this one to prospective and new members. But before we get going, we have with us today to open up the session Nancy Swerhan, Pensions and Benefits Manager, and Dwayne Cleve, Executive Director of Worker Benefit Plans and Lutheran Church Canada's Treasurer. Over to you, Nancy and Dwayne.
Thank you, Anna. And thanks to everybody that has made the time to attend this presentation. We're really pleased to be given this opportunity to speak to you about the potential changes to the pension plan. We are particularly happy to be bringing a good news story to both members and employers, given the challenges we have been experienced with the solvency funding of the pension plan over the last 13 or so years. We're very grateful to have the people from CAT here today who are providing you with information on the CAT pension plan. But to begin, I'll turn it over to Dwayne, who will lead us in a prayer, and then he'll turn it back to Anna.
Thank you, Nancy, and welcome everybody. Let's just bow our heads for prayer. Gracious and merciful Father in heaven, we humbly ask that you would guide and direct us by your Spirit as we discuss pension benefits pertaining to those who are called to preach and teach your holy word in the congregations of our synod, and for our professors, deacons, and other church workers that serve in our synodical family. Give us grace that we may honor you with the wealth of this world that you have given to us, always remembering that our true riches are in heaven above, through Jesus Christ, your Son, our risen Lord and Savior, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. I'll turn it over to you, Anna.
Thank you very much, Nancy and Dwayne. So the purpose of this webinar is to provide you with the opportunity to learn more about CAT, the CAT pension plan, and also the proposed merger of the Lutheran Church Canada defined benefit pension plan with the CAT pension plan. And we will be referring to Lutheran Church Canada's LCC throughout this presentation. Now, from the CAT team today, you have already heard from Nick. We also have Melissa from our actuarial team and Graham Stone, director in the Pension Solutions team, in the background to assist with questions that may arise. As part of our agenda for today, we're going to go over some history about us, the benefits of joining CAT for you, an overview of the process. Now, if the merger of the LCC defined benefit pension plan and the CAT pension plan is successful, this will mean that you will start contributing to CAT effective April 1st, 2023. And at that time, you will start to accrue a secure and predictable defined benefit pension under our plan design called DBplus. And we are going to go over details of how DBplus, our modern defined benefit plan, works, including valuable and important additional features and benefits that are included under the plan design. And to reiterate, please send in your questions in the questions panel throughout the presentation. Now, before we dive into our content, we're going to take a moment to do a quick poll. So I'm going to call in Nick to launch the poll.
Thanks, Anna. Okay, we're going to ask about your knowledge level on defined benefit pension plans in our first poll today. So your three options here. The first question is, well, how do you rate your knowledge level of defined benefit or DB pension plans? And your options are, I thoroughly understand DB plans and how they work. I somewhat understand DB plans and how they work. And the last option is, I have no knowledge of DB plans and or how they work. So polls are open. Please feel free to submit an answer at your earliest convenience here, and we will monitor until all the votes are in. Okay, so Anna, you have 13% who've indicated they thoroughly understand DB plans and how they work, so a small handful. 60% are in that middle category, as somewhat understand DB plans and how they work, and 27% say they have no knowledge of DB plans and how they work. So with those results, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Thank you, Nick. So this is useful for us to know. So I think what's going to come next during this presentation is going to be useful. We're going to start with going a little bit of history on CAT. So who are we at CAT? So the CAT pension plan, which stands for the Colleges of Applied Arts and Technology Pension Plan, was established in 1967. And we were originally put in place to provide teachers from the community college system with a defined benefit pension plan, which in turn provides great benefit security. So we have been providing our members who work in the college system with guaranteed pensions for a long time now. All right, so as I was saying, we are an independent public sector pension plan, similar to a couple of Ontario plans that you may have heard of, Omers and Hoop. We are also a multi-employer plan and operate independently of the government. We are a profit for members trust or a not-for-profit trust organization. And what this really means is that we have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that every single dollar goes towards paying our members their pensions. Now, also important to note that we are a jointly sponsored pension plan. And a jointly sponsored pension plan, or JSPP, and you might hear quite a bit of acronyms today. So JSPP essentially means that the risk of the plan is shared between participating employers and by members of the plan. So employers and members make decisions on a joint basis. And we have a board of trustees and a sponsors committee who makes those decisions based on the best interest of our plan members. So how do we do this? Well, to start with, we have a very strong governance structure, which means we have equal representation at that board level. Half the members on the board are members of the plan, and they are represented by various union groups. And then the other half represents the employers. And on the one hand, the board of trustees are responsible for setting the investment strategy and they establish policies for administering benefits. On the other hand, the sponsors committee approves plan amendments and files actuarial valuations. So they determine how to best balance contribution rates and benefit design. And this governance structure works very well at CAT as our structure promotes shared risk and responsibility. So this information and more details, including annual reports and investment information, can also be found on our website for our members, employers, and the public to see, which is very important for us because we believe this transparency is important in building trust. And when it comes to the CAT team, and I might sound biased here, but we are currently a team of over 300 dedicated staff with pension expertise, meaning we have a solid and deep-rooted focus on pensions and pensions only. So our attention is not diluted by providing other types of plans such as a dental or health plan. So our focus is on pensions only. And our staff are all aligned on our primary focus to provide all our members with monthly pensions for life. And none of our staff, including our CEO, receive any performance bonuses or commissions. So our only goal is to maintain a strong and sustainable plan, and at the end of the day, to deliver on our promise of providing a secure monthly pension for life for Canadians. Now, an interesting fact is that as staff, we are also members in the CAT pension plan. So I could say that we also have a personal stake in the plan being sustainable in the long run. And we have a great team of diverse and talented professionals working in different departments and teams, such as our pension administration team, communications, policy, risk management, and investment teams. And all that team effort ensures we have a sustainable and high performing plan. And those are not just words, since our investment numbers show just that. And I am going to share highlights of our investment numbers in the next few slides. So we released our latest numbers in the last few weeks, and it showed that our assets grew from $15.8 billion at the start of 2021 to $15.2 billion at the start of 2020, which is great news. And this also translates into a $4.4 billion funding reserve plus a $2 billion assets moving reserve on top of that, which means that we have a lot of funds to navigate the financial storms that an event like a pandemic can bring, as well as reserves to provide enhancements to members. So those reserves keep the plan strong during periods of investment volatility, and we also have a robust funding policy to keep our plan sustainable for many, many years into the future, so that at the end of the day, we can continue to pay out lifetime pensions to our members. So we are also fully funded at 124% at the beginning of 2022, and that is on a going concern basis. So essentially, this means that for every dollar we need to pay out in pensions, we have $1.24 to back that pension promise. Our 10-year average annual net return is 11.1%, net meaning net of all fees, which outperform its benchmark and put us at the top of the list with our peer plan group. And even better is that our net return for 2021 was 15.8%, which again puts us with higher performers if compared to peer plans. So all the numbers that I have shared are as at the beginning of 2022, so January 1st, 2022. And they are our latest numbers, as I said, which were recently published in our annual report, which can be found on our website. So if anyone is interested to look at more details, it can be found in our annual report online. Now, we have always had a very strong foundation, starting with the 24 Ontario college employers mentioned earlier. And we have had a rapid growth over the last few years, where we are currently at more than 200 employers and more than 75,000 members. So for example, Toaster joined CAT with a 97% member approval rate, which is quite exceptional. The University of Saskatchewan, our first university employer, joined the plan in 2019, as well as our first law firm, Wright Henry. And more recently, Catholic Charities, the Canadian Institute of Actuaries, and several not-for-profits, namely United Way of Greater Toronto, Community Living York South, and Community Living Toronto. And fun fact, our first non-college affiliated employer was the Royal Ontario Museum, the ROM, who joined CAT in 2016. And we have members from all provinces across Canada, and we also hope that you too will join the CAT family, where you will definitely be in good company. Now, I want to move on now to look at the benefits of joining CAT. So first and foremost, rest assured that your past benefits would remain protected. So the main thing to take away is that your past benefits would remain protected. It would simply be replicated and backed by the CAT pension plan. So moving into CAT's DBplus pension plan design means that everyone will earn a secure and predictable defined benefit pension, including important and valuable features for your DBplus pension. So I'm talking here about conditional inflation protection, for example, which is paid at 75% of the consumer price index. Now, you would be able to also use your defined contribution funds once the defined contribution plan is wound up to purchase more pension under DBplus. so doing what we call a pension purchase. Now, what are the benefits of a plan merger for LCC? Well, merging the LCC defined benefit plan with CAT is a cost-effective way out of current DB liabilities at a fixed price. It will ensure that contributions are stable and predictable, as well as ease of financial reporting. And more importantly, the ability to offer a defined benefit plan to all employees going forward from the merger date of April 1st, 2023. Now, for us at CAT, more members joining is beneficial as it diversifies our membership, which then elevates efficiencies in the plan. And what I'm talking here is about from the point of view of elevated efficiency with better economies of scale. And then from a broader perspective, it ensures that we are able to increase the defined benefit pension coverage on the Canadian landscape, which is good news for Canadians to have access to a secure and predictable lifetime pension. All right, so I want to go over an overview of the process now. So what we are showing here is a high-level timeline of that process. So to start with, after many meetings that started last year to strategize, including discussions around contribution rates and effective date, we conducted a preliminary analysis of member data through our due diligence process and assessed demographic data and risks. And then this was followed by communication development, during which time we work with LCC to distill information for webinars such as this one, and a second series that will probably happen later this year, either later this year or early next year during the consent period. You will also then have support through our website tools and our helpline. There will be a microsite created just for you later on, where you will be able to estimate your pension using the microsite's pension estimator. Now, if the merger of the LCC defined benefit plan with a CAT pension plan is approved and goes through, we will then begin the onboarding process, so enrolling employees, and then you will start contributing to DBplus effective April 1st, 2023. And then that last icon on the screen, so this is fast forward in the future, we expect past DB benefits and asset transfer to CAT to finalize about a year from the effective date of April 1st, 2023, therefore sometime in 2024, after the necessary regulatory approvals have been obtained. And finally, we also expect the defined contribution plan to be wound up sometime in 2024 as well. So this, in essence, is what we are looking at in terms of a timeline. Now, it is good to know that the requirements for a merger to proceed are rules in legislation and therefore are not CAT's or LCC's rules. So the legislative requirements for the merger are that at least 2/3 of active defined benefit members vote in favor of the merger of the defined benefit plans. And then secondly, that no more than 1/3 of inactive members in the defined benefit plan vote against the merger. And inactive members include former and retired members. And then finally, consent from the Alberta Regulatory Authority and from other regulatory authorities applicable to members must be obtained. So those are requirements for the merger to proceed. Now, this next slide might be of high interest as well for you online today in terms of the defined contribution plan or DC plan wind up. So your accounts will continue to be invested until approval to wind up is received from the regulator. You will have a few options then with regards to your DC funds after the wind up. So you could use those funds to make what we call a pension purchase under DBplus. Essentially, that means transferring in funds to increase your DBplus pension at retirement. Or you could transfer your funds to an RSP or locked-in retirement account, or purchase an annuity with an insurance company. So those are choices that you will have. Again, making a purchase under DBplus once you are a member is a choice, so you don't have to do it. And it will be up to you to decide what is best for your own situation. All right, before we go on the rest of the presentation, I do want to check in with Nick to see if any questions came in.
And we're all clear. White as day here, so no questions yet, but I anticipate we'll get a lot in the next segment, which gets into some of the nuts and bolts of the plan.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Well,
so I'm going to go over the how DBplus work, which honestly is my favorite part of the presentation. So the nuts and bolts of DBplus, our pension plan design. So first of all, a little bit of history on DBplus. It is CAT's second plan design. So our original plan design was for those working in the Ontario College system. Now DBplus has a modern defined benefit pension design. It has fixed contribution rates for both you and your employer. And I am going to go into more details, including the formula in a moment. Now, for members participating in DBplus, all they have to do is make their contributions, which the employer take directly from their pay and send over to CAT. And then their pension grows over their working years. And from an employer's perspective, it is the same. All they have to do is make their contributions on behalf of their employees, and that is it. So employers can then offer a defined benefit pension plan to their employees, which is an effective and attractive recruitment and retention tool. And this is especially important since several research have alluded to that. The one I'm referring to is the recent research from the Global Benefits Attitude Survey by Willis Towers Watson. And in that research, it mentioned that half of the employees surveyed indicated that saving for retirement is the area where they most want help from their employer. And because contributions are a major component in determining one's pension, each dollar contributed under DBplus will result in an increase in one's pension. So the more members contribute, the higher their DBplus pension. So it is that simple. So this is how contributions are linked to benefits earned. Now, if the merger is successful, employees will automatically join DBplus on the effective date of the merger, so April 1st, 2023, and will then contribute 4% of earnings. And the important thing is that your employer also contributes, and at a higher percentage, actually 6%, therefore for a total of 10% in contributions. And also contributions are tax deductible, so they are subject to the Income Tax Act. Therefore, contributions are deducted pre-tax or before any other deductions are taken off, such as CPP or EI. And in that sense, it is similar to RSP contributions. So now we get to the DBplus pension formula, which is how we take contributions and turn them into an annual pension. So as we can see here, there are two parts to that pension formula. So in blue, what it is showing is that we take the total contributions that the member and the employer make, so that 4% plus 6%, that 10% total, and we simply multiply that amount by our annual pension factor. And our annual pension factor is currently 8.5%. So this makes up a member's annual base pension, or the guaranteed base pension. So to summarize here, the member earns a guaranteed annual base pension equal to 8.5% of the total employer and member contributions. So that's the first part of the formula. And then on the second part in green, so these are the enhancements to pensions already earned or credited each year. And this is referring to the AIW enhancement. And AIW stands for the average industrial wage, and it is a measure in which wages increase in Canada year over year. Therefore, I like to say that AIW enhancements are members' pre-retirement indexing, since these are increases that members receive during their working years, so while they're working and contributing to DBplus. So to give you an example, CAT paid an AIW enhancement of 5.43% on DBplus members' 2021 accrued pension. So again, the AIW would be multiplied by a member's total DBplus pension earned in the previous year to increase their accrued pension amount. And as a side note, and important to know that the AIW, the average industrial wage rate, is a number that is not set by CAT. So it is set by Statistics Canada each year. So we do not in any way influence that number. So I want to summarize again here for this part of the formula. So the prior year's earned pensions are increased by the AIW enhancements every year as long as our funded status permits. And once granted, the AIW enhancements are guaranteed. Now, DBplus provide a lifetime secure defined benefit pension with valuable features. And this is exactly what this graph is illustrating. So where a member accrues pension during their working years, so here they start on a DBplus at age 40. So when they are contributing, the left part of the graph, we can see the base pension plus the AIW, the average industrial wage enhancements are added on top every year, and they accumulate until the member retires. And we can see how that AIW enhancement portion triangle becomes bigger as the members go throughout their career and contributing to DBplus. And then when the member retires, so here at 65, so they start to collect their lifetime pension. And we can also see the on the lighter blue triangle sitting on top of the lifetime pension. This is showing the conditional inflation protection enhancement that DBplus pensioners receive every year. And extremely important to protect our members' purchasing power, especially in high inflation times that we are living in, unfortunately. So then when the member passes away, if they have a surviving spouse, that spouse receive a survivor pension, which also would include the conditional inflation protection. And don't worry, I am going to elaborate on those valuable features a little bit more that are included in the DBplus in a moment. But first, I do want to come back to something that I mentioned earlier, so our profit for member model. So this is set out in a funding policy which help us maintain focus on protecting benefits and really provides a roadmap on what to do as the funded position changes. So level 1, not shown here, would be less than 100% funded. At level 2, with just $1 of surplus, we would provide 75% of inflation protection to pensioners. And as the funding level increases, additional benefit enhancements are granted. So we are currently at 124% funded, which means that we are at level 4. And again, the detailed funding policy can be accessed on our website, so it is publicly available if any of you on the line want to look at it in more detail. All right, so in the next section, I'm going to go over a bit more details on these additional benefits and additional features that DBplus offers, which I've highlighted in the previous sections. So first, members can retire as early as age 50 under DBplus with a subsidized early retirement pension. And the second feature that I want to mention is the conditional inflation protection, which I have already talked about a fair bit, and then the survivor benefits. So let's go a little bit more, expand a little bit more on each. So starting with the subsidized early retirement. Now, what happens to a member's DBplus pension if they start collecting their DBplus pension earlier than age 65? And 65 is the normal retirement age under DBplus. So if they want to collect their pension earlier, before 65, there will be an early retirement adjustment, which is currently 3% each year that the member is away from age 65. And this is actually the lowest early retirement adjustment under DBplus, because the early retirement adjustment can be between 3 and 5% and is based on our funded status. So since we are in such a strong funded position currently, members benefit from that lowest possible early retirement adjustment, which is 3%. So again, this is thanks to the fact that our funded position is very strong, since that early retirement adjustment factor is dependent on our funding level. And that early retirement adjustment is simply there to reflect the fact that the member is starting their pension earlier and therefore likely to be paid for a longer period of time. So to put this in context, so let me give you an example. Let's say as a DBplus member, you want to retire at 60, so 5 years away from 65. So at 3% per year, that would be a 15% reduction. So 3% times 5 years. 15% reduction of your DBplus pension. But that would also mean that you would be getting your pension for an additional 5 years and 5 years earlier as well. And that early retirement adjustment, which is also referred to as the reduction factor, is sometimes referred to as a penalty, but is actually a subsidy. Because if we wanted to actuarially or statistically reflect the true reduction that should be applied to a member's pension to reflect the fact that it is going to be paid for a longer period of time, that reduction would be more in the range of 6% per year. So yes, there is a reduction, but it is a smaller one compared to the one that would be applied actuarially. And many other plans have an early retirement adjustment of 5% per year before age 65. Actually, CPP early reduction is 7.2% per year. So if I come back to that same scenario where I wanted to collect CPP at age 60, I would be looking at a 36% reduction compared to the 15% under DBplus and with the same scenario. So in comparison, DBplus members, I would say, are in an advantageous spot indeed. And again, this comes back to our profit for members model, where the better our funded status is, better benefits are available to members. Now, in terms of conditional enhancements, which I think I have talked quite a bit about both of them, And to reiterate what they are and how they work, they are conditional on the plan's funded status, as mentioned earlier. And there is a distinction between inflation protection in retirement and the average industrial wage enhancement, the AIW enhancement that members receive on their DBplus pension while they are working and contributing to DBplus. What is important to remember is that these enhancements will form part of members' guaranteed DBplus pension. So we saw earlier the AIW enhancements are the enhancements or increases that members receive while they are working and contributing to DBplus. And they are paid at 100% of what the AIW rate is. Now, with inflation protection in retirement, it is paid at 75% of CPI, the Consumer Price Index. So, for example, if CPI is 4%, then 75% of that would be 3%. And a common question we get is, what does conditional mean? So again, it simply means that if the plan can afford to pay those enhancements, then they will be paid. And when we saw when I went through the funding levels, if the plan has just one single dollar of surplus, we will continue to pay inflation protection to our retirees. And another item that I want to expand on is survivor benefits, which is usually a topic of high interest. We usually get a lot of questions about survivor benefits. So, like I said earlier, survivor pensions are included under the DBplus design, and DBplus offers distinctive survivor options with no reduction in the member's DBplus pension. So this means that the member's pension will not reduce as a result of choosing one of CAT's joint and survivor option at retirement. And we call this a no-cost survivor pension for the member's spouse. Now, the benefit for the spouse, if there is a surviving spouse, is a lifetime survivor's pension. So the spouse survivor pension will be paid for the rest of the spouse life at 60% of what the member was receiving, which is the default spouse survivor pension. And again, at no cost to the member. And another unique feature is that our joint and survivor options continue to apply to eligible spouses, even if the member did not have a spouse at retirement and then got a spouse during retirement. So that spouse would still qualify as an eligible spouse for survivor benefits. And I also want to mention that there are circumstances where eligible children, an eligible children child or children pension might be payable where there is no spouse or on death of the spouse. It does depend if it's a pre-retirement or a post-retirement death of the member, and there are different details as well. But for the purpose of this webinars, we have 60 minutes. It's kind of an overview of what those survivor benefits are. And for our purpose, the definition of eligible children for us means children under 18 or up to age 25 if they are in post-secondary school, or adult children with a disability who are dependent on the member. And we actually recently expanded that definition of eligible children. It was previously only children under 18, and we're very proud of having been able to expand that definition. And finally, we also have a guarantee of a minimum of 60 monthly payments once members start their pension. So a guarantee of 60 monthly payments, or I could say a 5-year guarantee, since both are the same length of time. So this means that, for example, in the eventuality that a member passes away after only 2 years in retirement, if they do not have a spouse or eligible children, the remainder of that 5-year guarantee period, so the remaining 3 years of pension payments, will be paid to their beneficiary, or if there was no beneficiary named, then to the estate. All right, moving on now to the subject of pension purchases. So again, if the proposed merger goes through, you may be able to increase your DBplus pension once you're a member under DBplus with a pension purchase. But there are rules around a pension purchase. So what can you purchase? First off, a pension purchase needs to be tied to employment. So once a member in a DBplus, for those of you not in a DB plan currently, you could purchase the period of employment with LCC while in the DC plan once the DC plan is wound up. And you could also, and this one applies to everyone on the line, you could also purchase periods of employment with a previous employer. So if you were employed somewhere else before joining LCC, where you participated in that previous employer's registered pension plan, and remember that period needs to be tied to employment, and provided the benefit is no longer with that pension plan, so if it is with a locked-in retirement account, sorry about that, jump. So if it is in a locked-in retirement account, a LIRA, for example, you could use those funds in that account to purchase more pension under DBplus after joining. And this is a choice that we will have once you become a member. So you do not have, it is not mandatory to make a purchase. It is up to each member to decide if a purchase makes sense for them. But I do think it is great to have that choice. And I have to say too, this is an extreme summary of pension purchases. Usually we do a separate 60 to 90 minutes webinars on this subject alone. So once an employee has joined. So, but in a sense, I think it has captured what a pension purchase is. Now we're on the last lap. So before we go to the last few slides, I do want to do another poll, the second and last one of the day. So Nick, could you launch that poll, please?
Absolutely. Here we go. I will launch it now. Okay, just a little bit of a skill testing question based on the information that Anna has shared with you today. So we want you to select all of the statements below that are true about DBplus. I'll list them out for you. The first one is, when I retire, I will receive a monthly pension for life. Number 2 is, my pension will grow with AIW or average industrial wage enhancements while working. Number 3 is, my pension grows with inflation enhancements in retirement. Number 4 is, my spouse will receive 60% of my pension when I pass away. So the poll is open. Please proceed and select each of the statements or all of the statements that you feel are true. And we'll give you a few moments to answer here. And so, when I retire, I will receive a monthly pension for life. 100% said it is true, and it is true. So well done there. My pension will grow with AIW enhancements while working. Also true. 92% said so. So that's another good number. My pension grows with inflation enhancements in retirement. Also true. 92% said of you so. So that's great. And finally, my spouse will receive 60% of my pension when I pass away. Not looking to trick anybody on these here. They're all true. So that last one is also true at 92%. So well done to all of you. You're obviously picking this information up quite well. And Anna is obviously a pro at this. So I'm glad to see that results are shown here. So I'm going to turn it back to you, Anna.
Thank you very much, Nick. And Nick is obviously a great colleague who always is very encouraging, has encouraging words. So thank you everyone for participating to the poll. Now, in terms of resources for now, our website has a wealth of information. And as I said, there will be a microsite created specially for you beginning of next year, late this year, beginning of next year, for that consent period, the 90-day consent period, beginning of next year. So you will have the access to a tool where you can estimate your pension, called the pension estimator. And in the meantime, I would say the DBplus value tool on our website can be useful to estimate what a DBplus pension could look like. Be mindful though that it will only give you an estimate of a DBplus pension. So you can access other documents as well. For example, as I said earlier, our funding policy, our annual reports, with our latest one having just been published. And the member handbook as well can be useful because it goes into details of features such as survivor pensions in more details that I went through today. And we know that might be a lot of information for a session, but again, you're not alone. Rest assured that we are here to answer your questions during this webinar and after. If you have any questions, send us an email at info@dbplus.ca. And if you would like a phone call, please include your phone number in that email, and a member of our team will give you a call. And our website address, www.catpension.ca, or if you're comfortable with us using your QR code scanner, if you scan that code, it will take you directly there. And again, reminder that you will have access to a microsite later on in the year or early next year, where there will be a customized pension estimator, amongst other things. All right, at this point, I'm going to go back to Nick and open up the Q&A portion of this presentation.
Thank you, Anna. We have a number of questions I'd like to share in the last portion of this session. So there was a question here regarding inactive members and when details will be available about specific changes, if any, to the inactive members' benefits. And those, just want to let everybody know who's an inactive member that those benefits will not be changing. They'll get the same pension under the same terms. The only thing that'll change is the entity that will be paying you, and that will be CAT going forward, or our financial folks. So that will be the only change that will be communicated to you towards the end of the year. There's another question, Anna, regarding inflation and how the inflation LCC's plan compares to the inflation, the conditional inflation protection that's applied to retirements under DBplus. And I've been made aware that the LCC pension is not indexed. So therefore, moving to the DBplus pension plan, the CAP pension plan and DBplus design, we are offering conditional inflation at 75% of the consumer price index. So that is certainly superior to LCC's plan, and therefore you're definitely in good hands with that added or additional benefit that's tied to DBplus. Another question was related to the LCC benefit that members have accrued up to the merger date. So just keep in mind that whatever you've accrued up to the merger date will remain and will continue. And so any provisions tied to that pre-merger benefit will remain. It'll be the exact same, and then we'll just start to accrue an additional benefit, an added benefit, which is a DBplus pension from the merger date forward under the new provisions. One other question that came in was, is the 8.5% annual pension factor subject to funded status and or market conditions? And the answer there is the funding policy does contain directions on where we place our funded status, where we place our annual pension factor. So yes, the funding policy will give us guidance as to what to do with the annual pension factor based on the funded status of the plan. Currently, it's at 8.5%. We are swiftly moving, as you've noticed by our funded status and the great health our plan is in right now. We are quickly headed towards a 9.5% annual pension factor, which we expect to be in place by 2025. But again, that funding policy helps guide us on how to manage that factor going forward. Okay, 60 months regarding the 60 months of guaranteed pension, payment of initial pension. If I die 2 years after my retirement, does this mean that my wife gets 100% for the next 3 years, then drop down to the 60% rate? So it doesn't work quite that way. If you die 2 years after your retirement, your spouse will immediately receive 60% of the pension you were receiving at the date of your death for their lifetime. So if they happen to pass away within the next 3 years, let's say, then we would look to any eligible children to pay out that survivor pension to them. If there are no children, then we would then look at the 60 months of guaranteed payment. And if both you and your spouse did not get paid out 60 months, whatever's left will be paid out to the beneficiary or estate if there's no designated beneficiary on file. Okay.
And Nick?
Yes.
if I could add to that,
Yes, please.
once the member has deceased, the spouse is deceased, and there's no eligible children, the test will be 60 months of payments at the 100% level. That total would be compared to the payments made to the member, the 60% payments made to the spouse and the children. And if there's any differential versus 60 months at 100%, that differential is what would be paid to the beneficiary or estate.
Super. Thanks, Greg. That's a good comparison. I like that. Okay, so there's a question here. If presently I'm eligible for unreduced pension at 62 years old, will that actual dollar number be less now that the new plan has reductions prior to age 65? So there again, and I wanted to revert back to my previous response. Anything you've accumulated up to the merger date would be calculated separately and using the provisions of your prior plan. Anything you've accumulated going forward would be using the provisions of the new plan DBplus. Graham, did you want to add anything to that response?
Sure. So for service prior to the merger date, any benefits under the LCC DB plan, it's the LCC pension formula, LCC early retirement provisions, LCC survivor benefit provisions, and no indexing. So the descriptions of DBplus that Anna presented are what you would be earning going forward. So they're kept two separate, and then CAT would calculate both separately and pay both together.
Terrific. Thanks, Graham. Next question. In the first session, it was mentioned the transfer would be at a fixed cost. What is that cost and to who? Now I require some clarity there. Yeah, Graham? Yep.
Yeah. So that question is related to the LCC DB plan that has had a chronic solvency deficiency, which the churches have been contributing towards. So the churches have been contributing for the cost of benefits being earned, but they've also been contributing towards that deficit. So CAT, as part of the merger, is identifying what is the merger shortfall for CAT to take on the liabilities, transferring the LCC assets over. And we will quantify that shortfall before LCC signs an agreement to merge with CAT, and that dollar amount will be fixed, and CAT is allowing LCC to pay that over a period of years at a similar rate to which the churches have been funding that solvency deficiency. So it's projected it might take in the 5 to 6 year range. Then those deficiency payments that the churches have been making, they will cease. And from that point forward, it's just the churches would continue to make their 6% employer contribution.
Thanks, Graham. There's a follow-up question to that, and that's, will it be available before the vote?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay, this next question, I think it's our final question, is after the merger, what happens to the current LCC Worker Benefit Board of Directors? And I think I might want to direct that one to either Nancy or Dwayne.
Well, we would still have, I better show my camera too. Nothing is changing right now for the group benefit plans like health, dental, and life insurance and LTD. So those will still be managed by the church. We will still be looking after collecting the money from the employers and forwarding the pension contributions onto CAT. It's very probable within a couple of years we won't need WBS anymore, and that'll be able to be managed through LCC. But that's still being analyzed.
Super, thanks, Dwayne. And Anna, that is all the questions we have. I'm going to turn it back over to you. Oh, Graham. Yep, Graham,
actually, Nick, seeing the one other question, was about people who have a defined contribution account balance and they want to make a purchase. And comment was, so the amount of pension it will purchase will depend on the account balance on April 1st. Yes, the amount of pension you purchase will be dependent on your account balance and your age if you're over age 40, but you don't need to do a purchase on April 1st or immediately thereafter. You can do a purchase at any time while you're an active contributing member to CAT. So anytime from April 1st next year when you join to prior to your retirement. So at any time in that period, you can do a purchase. So if come next April, you're not ready to do a purchase, or you'd like to keep investing your RSP for a little bit longer and wait and try and time the market to liquidate your investments when markets are high, you're certainly welcome to do that. There's no pressure to rush into a purchase. And we, after the April 1st, we would do a purchase webinar. So it's a webinar just on purchases, how they work, the process, etc. So there will be lots of support for you at that time.
Thank you, Graham. I missed that one. I appreciate that. Now, Anna, I will turn it over to you to close things off.
Thank you very much. And we're right at 3 p.m. And so thank you first to Nancy and Dwayne, obviously, for being here and for the support. And on behalf on the whole CAT team, so Nick, Melissa in the background, Graham, and myself, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time and have a great rest of your day.
Anna,
Thank
could
you
I
very
just
much.
ask
Yes.
for one thing? We have a lot of members on the call today, and I did hear the reference to the vote in one of the questions. And as most of you know, we are asking for a resolution to be passed at the convention. Basically, we're looking for a strong endorsement from the church body to proceed with the merger. And we could really use your help in getting some of your lay delegates or whoever's most involved at your congregation in the worker benefit plans. Oftentimes it's the treasurer, the chairman, to sign up for some of the employer webinars. They can certainly sign up for the member one as well, but we do have employer webinars taking place this week and next week and the week following. And so the next one is tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, Thursday evening at 6 o'clock, and then next week, Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock, and the following week, Monday and Tuesday at 6 o'clock. If anybody still needs those links, it's the same emails that went out where you found your member webinar logins. The employer one's on there too. If you could we just ask that you strongly encourage your lay delegates to attend one of those sessions so they get an orientation before the convention. We're also going to be doing that at the convention in the workshops. And we do have an opportunity at the convention for an hour presentation Saturday afternoon to the General Assembly. So thank you for your help and thank you for attending today.
Thank you, Dwayne, and have a good day, everyone.
Bye, everybody.